Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ron LeGrand, and beside me is Debbie Waters, who happens to be the marketing director here at Global Publishing.
Hi.
And we decided to do something a little different today. Debbie is going to interview me instead of me interviewing someone else. We get a lot of requests for people who want to know how to get started in real estate, how do they make money, and numerous other questions. Debbie has made a list of some of them today, and she's going to interview me. I'm going to attempt to answer them in the time we're going to have together today. And then when I'm through, I'll give you a place to go put your questions, and I'll get back to you and answer those for you myself. And also at the end of this presentation, I'll give you a chance to get started. We have 2 or 3 different methods for you to do that with, and at a humongous discount for what we're going to offer you and how to get started, because the truth is you have to get started somewhere, as all of us did. So you're going to have to make a decision. Is that today, or you're going to put it off any longer? So Debbie, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're going to ask me the questions, and if I don't know the answer, I'm just going to make something up anyway. So fire away.
All right, Ron. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me today. Like Ron said, we do get a lot of questions. Ron has gone quite viral on social media across all of those platforms, as well as we are have a big following on YouTube. And just a lot of our students from all over the country write into us and have lots of questions. So I asked Ron if he would sit down with me today, and we'll just pick his brain a little bit and have him, give us his take on what's going on today. So Without further ado, I will just hop right in, Ron. Okay, so Ron, first of all, can you just share your story of how you first got started in real estate investing and what initially attracted you to the field?
Well, I was a dead broke mechanic operating a service station on a consignment basis. I was only working about 12 hours a day, about 6 days a week in the hot Florida sun. My job was fixing cars as well as pumping gas and running the station and keeping people from stealing stuff. And I was barely making a living. I'd come home hot and tired and angry and greasy, and I just never could get ahead. So I started looking, and I found an opportunity to go to my first seminar on March 12, 1982. It was a life changer for me. And, I want to tell you, everybody right now, you never know when that life changer is going to come. You don't necessarily plan for it. Okay. Looking back, I had no idea what I was getting into. But also looking back, I made a decision to go to that seminar while most of the people watching that commercial did not. So there's got to be a message there somewhere. That started me. I went into my next seminar very shortly thereafter, and I learned one technique called wholesaling. Most of everything else I was taught just flew right on by me and had no experience. But I went out within my first 3 weeks and got a check for $3,000, which was a life-changing check for me. And I've been buying houses ever since. I'm in my 43rd year, Debbie. Holy moly, 43rd.
Did you start when you were like 5 or something?
I'm not old. I'm seasoned, they tell me. So anyway, I quit counting that 3,000 houses a long time ago. I don't really care anymore, but I still do it to this very day. In fact, as I'm sitting here right now, we're closing a house, Debbie. You didn't even know that, did you?
No.
Right here as I'm sitting here. Okay, we're closing a house. We're buying a house today. In fact, I'll get to that here in a little bit, because I'm going to attempt to explain where the money is in real estate and how you can get at it and do it without risk and without all the costly entanglements people think that comes along with real estate. And somewhere along the line, Debbie's probably going to ask me a question like that, aren't you, Debbie?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
Let's see, the next question we have. So we do get quite a few questions about challenges and overcoming obstacles and things like that. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you first started out, and how did you overcome them?
I had no idea what I was doing. I was scared, but I was also broke and hungry, because that overrode the scared. And I just got out there and started doing what I was taught to do. And, I didn't understand a lot of it, but as I'll tell you in a minute, her first house was a wholesale deal, and frankly, an idiot could wholesale a house because you don't even have to buy it. There's no money involved, and there's no credit involved, or any of those things people think are involved in real estate. And we still wholesale houses this very day. Even though it's not my favorite technique in real estate, is we get checks, and as long as we get checks, it will remain somewhere close to the top of my favorites. Right? A lot of people start in the wholesaling business, but unfortunately, some of them just stay there and miss the other big opportunities that are in real estate because they're just doing the same thing over and over again. So it has its plus sides, big checks, also has its minus sides, no wealth. So we need to talk about how to create wealth.
Okay, that leads us into the next question. Can you explain the pretty house business model and why you believe it's the most profitable way to increase cash flow?
I can. A pretty house, in the pretty house business, it means houses that do not need rehabbed. In the ugly house business, it's houses that do need rehab. In the ugly house business, our goal is to buy it cheap because of its condition, well below market. So then we can either exit it by wholesaling it to another investor who will rehab it, or rehabbing it ourselves and selling it to end user owner occupants to get qualified for a loan. I have 4 of those on the market, 3 of those on the market as we sit here, and one is out there, will be wholesale shortly, and because we still do them all. I'll explain the terms business here in a little bit for you, but there's a lot of benefits for being and doing terms deals that you don't get in the wholesaling or rehabbing business. And there's upsides and downsides of both parts, but I like to help my clients get to be a well-rounded real estate entrepreneur, meaning they recognize opportunities when they see them, because by focusing only doing one type of deal, you're just losing an awful lot of money because you don't take advantage of the rest of the types of deals. And you're going to generate leads, and the seller's going to be called. So some of them are ugly houses, some of them are not ugly houses. We need to make money on both sides.
Okay.
Well, I think probably what you're asking me is, how do we make money on the pretty house business? Answer is, we buy it on terms. Terms means we either take over the seller's debt, which is what we do most of the time, or we lease option it from the seller. Either way, we're in total control of the house for as long as the seller allows us to be, and sometimes that's for the entire length of the loan and forever for that matter. And when we buy them on terms, we sell them on terms. When we have to pay cash, we have to sell it for cash. Very simple. I need to repeat that. If we buy on terms, we sell on terms, which means we put a lease option tenant buyer in it. We don't actually sell it. But if we buy on cash, it means we're probably going to get the money from a private lender, which are human beings, not loan sharks in our world. And then we're going to either wholesale it or we're going to rehab it and retail it. But today, if we're going to wholesale it, there's really no reason to even close on it. We just wholesale it before we have to, and the buyer brings in the money and plus the excess that we raise the price on it. In fact, did 5 of those here recently that I made slides on for PowerPoints, and 5 houses generated $147,000 to us, and we never took title to them, and we never put up any money, we never closed on them, and so forth. We just assigned the contracts. So that's the world of wholesaling. That's why everybody that gets in likes to do that, and I get that, and I'm okay with that. In fact, I'm okay with any one of those 3 that you do, but ultimately I'd like for you to be doing all 3 of those.
Okay. Ron, you do talk a lot about not using your own credit, and that you do not want any of your students on Planet Ron to ever do that.
There are 3 ways to 3 things here that people do that they should not be doing. Number 1, write big checks. We don't write big checks, but if we do write big checks, I write big checks because I fund the cash deals with my money, where most investors will fund it with private lenders until they want to fund it with their money. But all of it is short term. I do not bury money in real estate. In other words, I don't put up down payments and finance them and go down to the bank and get a loan. The biggest mistakes our folks can make, and any folks can make that's listening to this, is to guarantee debt. Guarantee debt means you risk 3 things. You risk your credit, you risk your assets, and you risk your marriage, because guaranteeing debt takes you out of control. And if things don't go the way you expect, and quite often that's the case, you're now a slave to the lender. And literally, you can, and many have before you, got wiped out because they made the mistake of begging banks for money. We do not beg banks for money. We don't need their money, buying or selling for that matter. So we have no reason to play with their rules because we're not using them in our world. So we don't guarantee debt. When we buy houses with owner financing, we either take over the debt, no guarantee, or we give a mortgage back to the seller and make payments, no personal guarantee. Or we go get private loans to buy junkers, no personal guarantee, because we get money from people, not brokers who make the rules. On Planet Ron, we make the rules. Sellers make us an offer. We don't make them an offer. We learn to ask very important questions, and the seller makes us an offer by answering those questions. It's a simple little script that I've perfected over the last 20 years or so. I hope that answered that question. I don't remember what it was anymore, Debbie.
You did. You covered it. Okay. You did mention mistakes that the new investors usually make.
Well, first of all, I operate in a world to eliminate the risk. And I know that's pretty hard for a new investor to believe, because they think you got to go borrow money and have good credit and suck up the lenders for money, and nothing is further from the truth. We don't do it that way. So the biggest mistake I think people are making is that they're guaranteeing debt, because they watch the internet and they watch this BRR thing, which is a recipe for bankruptcy, because they're guaranteeing debt and buying houses and putting up a big down payment and refinance and pull money out, buy, refinance, pull money out. Well, that's only going to last they would call that the cash flow shuffle. And pretty soon they're going to get cut off because they got too much debt on their financial statement. And now what are you going to do when banks aren't going to loan you any money anymore? You screw up your credit report, you screw up your financial statement, all because you listen to the wrong people tell you how to get rich in real estate. Trust me, I've seen many people crap out and burn out just because they made the mistake of guaranteeing debt. We don't guarantee debt, and then nobody's coming after us for a debt if things go wrong. And who knows what's coming up in the future. So we got to learn how to buy without guaranteeing debt. When I lease option it from a seller, I don't guarantee that debt. We do it in an entity. When I buy a house, no matter how I buy it in a land trust. The land trust is the entity that owns the house. Nobody can even find out who the owner of the land trust is. We have privacy. We have lien attachment protection. In other words, nothing's going to be in your name. Land trust will own the house. Your name will not even show up on public record, which I don't want to get into a long seminar on that. And by the way, I'm going to make an offer here when we're through, and I'm going to give away entire land trust course, including the documents that I created to answer that question we get over and over and over again. So we avoid risk by not writing big checks until we are ready to write them, because we're very sure of what we're writing them on. And when you write a big check, I expect you to get a big check back quickly. Quickly is measured in days and weeks, maybe a few months, not years. Okay. You bury money in real estate, and you are not getting actually any rate of return, because you get the same rate of return without your money in it as you do with your money. In fact, you get a better return without your money. So that's one way. We use entities to do business. Of course, I have all that course ready to go, and on multiple different subjects just on that. But land trust is where you want to start. It works in all 50 states. Probably includes all of our listeners here today.
Okay, so Ron, do you have a deal that you could actually walk our listeners through today?
Well, actually, yeah. In fact, I'm closing today. That's the one I'm closing today.
Okay.
It's a house. It's about 40 miles from here, and it's in decent shape. It probably don't need more than maybe $20,000 to update it a little bit and a few odds and ends. We're paying $190,000 for it. Closing as we sit here. The after repaired value on it's about $325 or $330, and it don't need more than $20,000 worth of repairs. So I want you listeners to digest those numbers. We're paying $190 because that's what the seller told us they needed and we agreed upon, not because that's what I offered the seller. It's what the seller offered us. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I still haven't decided whether we're going to renovate or wholesale. We're probably going to wholesale it, because I think we can probably get $225,000 out of it without touching it, without doing anything to it. We sell it to an investor who will rehab and retail it. So, if they've got 190 plus, 225 in it, and they spend 15, 20 on it, they still got plenty of room to make a profit that's acceptable to most rehabbers and retailers. Plus, this is a decent house in a decent neighborhood. This ain't in a crack house in the war zone. So we're probably going to wholesale it, and that would be $35,000 for doing nothing except managing this transfer. And in this case, I am going to put up the 190 to close the day, but I should get it back next week or the week after, or at least shortly after the tenants move out of the house. But I could retail it. I could wholesale it. I'd make a little more money rehabbing it, but it'd also take me several months. Make very easy, quick money wholesaling it. All your entrepreneurs got to make the same decision. Do I wholesale it or rehab it? And in the beginning, I suggest you wholesale it. Wholesaling is the easiest way to make money in this business, period. Anyone could do it. Does not require credit, nothing to borrow, does not require risk if you do it correctly. So that's an ugly house that I'm doing right now as we sit here. I mean, literally, as we sit here.
Okay.
That answer that question? Or you want to do a pretty house?
Well, if you have a pretty house, I think that they would enjoy learning. You talk a lot about the term strategy, and you use terms like lease purchase and owner financing, getting the deed. Okay. So if you could talk about those a little bit with the terms business, that would be great.
All right. Well, I use this one for an example because I've owned this house now for 14 years, and it will clearly demonstrate why the wealth is in the pretty houses, not in the ugly houses. Now, look, trust me, I don't have any problem anybody going and getting a check, okay? But remember, wholesaling and rehabbing are short-term capital gains. You're going to pay the maximum gain and maximum taxes in your tax bracket. And very soon, you're going to be in the 37% tax bracket with me because you don't need to make that much money to get there. And that means 37% of every dollar you make over about $720, $1,000 a year now, adjusted gross income, is taxed at 37%. So, when you get up into those numbers, you got to be very careful about trying to do everything you can to avoid taxes. So if I own a property a year, it's taxed at a maximum of 15 up to as high as 20% capital gains. So your taxes are cut in half just because you don't sell it within a year. Wholesaling and rehabbing, I'm going to pay all the maximum taxes. There goes half my money before I even get to use it for myself. Uncle Sam takes their bite out of it. And now on this house that I'm about to tell you about, I bought it 14 years ago. All right. And I got this beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood. It was 3 years old when I bought it. Gated community, the whole works, gorgeous condition. And the seller got a hold of us. They had to move in 2 weeks. And the realtor had it listed for $385, didn't sell it. So he owed $351 on it. If you guys want to take notes, you better write this stuff down because I got to move fast here and you're probably not going to comprehend it as fast as I can say it. He owed $351, and they had tried to sell it for $385. They did not get it sold. He called me and he said, "I got to move in two weeks." And it was very clear he didn't want a payment on this house and another house that he's moving to out in St. Louis, where he went. So he said, "I'll sell it for what I owe." Well, that attracted my attention. Plus, it's right down the street from where I live, my home. So I went there on the way home, and I got a contract. I gave him exactly what he asked for. I bought it for what he owes. It does not mean I wrote a check. I took over his debt, and I've been making payments on it ever since. But I have no money. I mean, I have a little money in it because I had to pay some closing costs, about $3,000, I think. Then I bought the house 2 weeks later. So I gave him what he asked. I bought it for what he owes. Does not mean I paid off his debt. Okay. So now I own the house, and it was in gorgeous condition. It did not need anything done to it. And so I put it on the market to lease purchase it, and I put it out at $395 because I always raise the price when I'm doing lease options anyway. And for somebody leasing it with an option to buy, there's no difference between $385, $395 anyway. So a tenant buyer couple came along, and we don't tell them what the rent is. We don't tell them what the monthly payment is. We ask them, what's the most you can down? What's the most you can pay per month? Okay. We found a couple that could put up $50,000 on a non-refundable option deposit, which they did. And they're willing to pay $2,500 a month rent at that time. My outgoing payment was $1,925 a month. So I immediately had a $575 a month positive cash flow. So the payment was $1,925, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So anyway, I bought the house. Basically, they gave me the house, and I agreed to start making their payments, which I have done ever since, and that's 14 years ago. So I put a tenant buyer in there. They had 2 years to cash out. 2 years later, they called me and told me they were moving. And, I tried to get them to stay. They didn't want to stay. So I want to point this out. Who called whom? They called me, told me they were moving, okay? and apologize because they couldn't buy it. That's what tenant buyers do. That's not what tenants do. Okay. And along the way, when I do a lease purchase, they're responsible for all the repairs after the first 30 days. It's a condition of their option. That's not the way it's done in this world. Landlord is responsible for repairs, not in my world, and not for 30 years or more. Tenant is responsible for repairs. So they gave me $50,000 deposit, and I had to do no repairs, and I've done no repairs since then, actually. So they moved out, and then unfortunately I rented it to my executive assistant, and still waiting on another $50,000. So I know the next question is going to be, when you get that deposit, do you have to put it in an escrow account? The answer, I don't know what that is. That's my money. The day I get it, I can spend it on anything I want. Take a trip around the world if I want. Because understand this, the deposit is non-refundable, signed off on in front of an attorney. If they buy, they get credited toward their down payment. If they don't buy, they lose their deposit. Couldn't be more clear in writing. Well, they chose not to buy. They forfeited their deposit. I hope everybody's clear on that. It's your money the day you get it. There is no escrow account. You're not a realtor. You're not holding money for somebody else. It's your money. And of course, it's got to be made clear. And that's why we close with an attorney. And the buyer pays closing costs, the tenant buyer. All right. So I want you to take a look at these numbers. You might want to write these down over this period. Now, it's been 14 years, granted, it's a long time. But I'm using this as an example why the terms business creates wealth, not just a quick payday. Number one, I still own the house. So whenever I sell it, it's going to be long-term capital gains. Okay. That means 15% or so, or I'm going to use one of my 3 techniques to sell it and never pay taxes on it, which we're not going to get into today. So here's the things that you get when you do not sell the house. You'll want to take notes on this one, I'll bet you, because this is not what they talk about on the internet. Number one, that deposit is my money the day I get it. I always get thousands of dollars up front before I give the keys to a lease option tenant buyer. I won't take less than 5%, and I shoot for 10%. In this case, I got more than 10%. Okay. The nicer the house, the easier it is to get above 10%. Don't forget now, it gets credited toward their purchase price if they buy. I get a monthly cash flow. This one generated $575 a month till they moved out. I get free equity. I bought it for $351. It was worth $385 the day I bought it. I get debt pay down. That means every month that goes by, my debt gets lower and lower and lower because my debt is the same as the seller's debt usually. I get depreciation. In other words, the government rewards us for owning real estate. And I'm going to convert all these to numbers for you in a minute. And then I get appreciation. My goodness, what has happened in the last 2 or 3 years with appreciation? A lot of people have got very wealthy just because they own real estate, because the prices just went, and they're still going in many places. And then I get the forfeited deposits. All of those income streams are mine if I don't sell the house, if I put tenant buyer in the house. They're not mine if I wholesale it or rehab it. I'll say it again. I'm not against wholesaling and rehabbing. I'm doing it right now myself. Okay, I just want you to see the big picture. And because many people get in and start wholesaling houses, and for years later, are still doing the same thing, and they're killing all that wealth. Let me show you the wealth. Let's talk about the first one.
Ron, before you go any further, can I just interject? What about the repairs while they're in the house? Who is responsible for the repairs?
The tenant buyer is responsible for all the repairs after 30 days after I put them in the house.
30 days, okay.
I bought the house for what was owed, $351. Today, it's worth $707,000. Okay, that's a $335,000 gain in value for doing nothing but collecting the rent and making the payment, which I don't do myself either. Right. My net cash flow in that period of time, $575 a month, comes to $62,100. That's just the difference between my payment and my rent. I've saved $80,000 in taxes, not write-offs, in taxes. That's $80,000 that I have not have to give to the government just because I own that house over the period of time that I've had it. The loan balance today, we started at $351. Today it's at $260. That's what, $91,000 I've gained just on the debt pay down, not to mention the appreciation. Okay. and the debt pay down $91,000. That all adds up, Debbie, to $595,000. But what have I forgotten? The $50,000 they gave me up front when they moved in. Okay.
Wow.
That house has made me $645,000, and
Wow.
I still own it. Okay.
That's amazing.
I bought it with no credit, no banks, very little money. And what I did put up in closing costs, I got back very shortly thereafter. No repairs, no realtors, and no costly entanglements that most people think you have to do to get into real estate. So that kind of gives you a good idea where the big money is in real estate, and why I want you to learn the whole business, not just the part of it. Part of it to start, move you on up, work together as we go.
Absolutely. And if you have several of those homes, just imagine.
Would you like to have about 50 of those?
Right. They wouldn't take long.
Forget about retirement. Forget about your retirement plan. Forget about Social Security, if it's even around at the time you get ready to quit.
That's right.
And, I'm talking to the young folks today as well as the older folks. And, I know with the young folks, it's going, I ain't worried about retirement. I'm going to live forever. The older folks are thinking, why haven't I started earlier than today? Okay. Whatever your need is, it's not too late. You're looking at a 77-year-old guy. You hear me? It's never too late. All right. We better get moving because we're running out of time, aren't we? What's
Okay.
next?
We are. Okay. Let's see. You mentioned that 90% of the work is done by virtual assistants and outsourcing companies. How do you effectively integrate these resources into your business?
Easy. First, we have to generate leads. And I'm about to give away a whole course on just doing that. It took 3 days to tape. A lead is the seller calling you. And then we have to take that call. So we have a company called Pat Live taking that call. That's ronlegrand.com/Pat Live, PATLIVE for peanuts. They'll take all your inbound calls 24 hours a day, send you the little short script that they're going to get from the seller. And then if you want to, you can send it to one of our virtual assistants who will make the call to the seller, fill out the property information sheet, and either post it up on your CRM or send it to you, whichever you prefer. All of that is done with no interference from you, okay? It's got to set it up and generate the leads using whatever techniques that you wish, which some are free, some are a small amount of money, and some you got to pay somebody else to do the work with their money and at their risk, so you're going to pay more for those leads. We do a little bit of everything. And that 3-day course will give you way more than you're going to do because you really only need 2 or 3 or 4 ways to generate leads at the most. So we generate the leads are done by others. The calls are taken by outsourcing. The outbound calls are done by our VAs. And now the only thing left for you to do is get on the telephone or read my short script, find out whether they're in or out. So they're either a terms prospect or they are an all cash prospect because they're going to be taken well below the market value because it needs renovated. If it doesn't need renovated, you're not going to buy it all cash at a price that I would allow you to buy it. It's just that simple. Okay. If it doesn't need renovated, its terms are nothing because they're going to want more than you're ever going to agree to pay all cash. That's right in your training. And by the way, I'm going to give you a great deal on your training as well here in just a minute. So hold on tight because you're about to get an offer I've never, ever made before. Go ahead. Next question.
Okay. The next question is, how do you handle relationships with your tenant buyers, especially in terms of maintaining positive interactions and ensuring timely payments from them?
Well, anybody that would ask that question has been a landlord and dealing with all the problems that go along with tenants.
That's right.
I'm not in the tenant business. I'm in the tenant buyer business. My relationships with my tenant buyers is almost none. Okay. Because the minute I hand them the keys, all we do from then on is collect payments and make the underlying payment. Look, they're going to stay there as long. I don't ever move them out. I've got tenants been there over 10 years. Their option expired, 8 or 9 years ago, but they're still there. I don't ever make them leave. But not truthfully, most of them won't buy. And I'm okay with that. The golden goose keeps living forever. But, that's not my decision. It's their decision. I give them a chance to buy, help them, whatever they need, clean up their credit, debt ratio, whatever is stopping them to buy and go down and get a loan. They can do it. I have plenty of time to do it. They don't ever ask for help, but if they ask for help, I certainly give them help because I'm in a business where I'd rather they don't buy, which is contrary to what everybody's teaching. I want the golden goose to live forever. I want to die owning my golden gooses. And my wife will shortly dispose of them. But I'll be gone. I don't care.
So Ron, if you do extend their option, do you create a new agreement, or do you just it just kind of continues as is?
As a trainer, I should tell you that should go get a new agreement.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
I do it, or did they do it? Okay, I don't do it. I don't do anything. I don't even contact them and tell them their option is up, as long as they keep sending me payments. And guess what? They keep doing the repairs too.
Right.
But the truth is, they want to buy it 5 years from now. We'll work it out. They've been with me 5 years. I'm telling you, I'll give them a deal. I know the price has gone way up. It don't mean I have to top retail price. I run my business so that when I get up in the morning, I feel good about the day before. And that means you get to run it with your own human emotions, your own tolerance level, for one thing. Sooner or later, you got to learn to get alligator skin and don't let all that little crap roll off your back. And most of the questions that we get from our students all the time, they never change, by the way. There hasn't been a new one in years. Most of them have to do because they hear all this stuff about tenant problems. I don't have problems with my tenants because they have a skin in the game. If they act up, if they don't pay the rent, they don't get their deposit clearly up front in blood in front of an attorney. A very good agreement. And of course, that's all part of the package that I'm about to offer them. But I learned a long time. And one time I had over 200 Section 8 HUD tenants, Debbie. I had dark hair back then, and they made me old very, very quickly. I will never go there again. That's a big difference between being a landlord with a tenant buyer.
Absolutely. Skin in the game is everything, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right. Let's move just a little bit over to a really hot topic, and that is the market adaptation. So with the real estate market constantly evolving, how do you stay ahead of the trends and adapt your strategy accordingly?
Look, I've been through 6 cycles in my 42 years. 2008 being the worst of them. And here's what I learned. It doesn't make any difference what the interest rates are, who's presidents, who's sleeping with who's stealing money up there, what's going on in the White House, because we ain't going to do anything about it anyway, but vote. And it doesn't make any difference what the economy is like. Right now, we're at a very high inflation and high interest rates, slowed down real estate, but people are still buying them. The downside of that is we have a huge deficit on inventory for housing in this country, like millions and millions of houses. So that's kind of propping it up somewhat. But regardless of what happens out there that we can't control, people always want to sell houses and other people always want to buy houses. And that's not going to change. We have to have a place to live, period. So we just go with the flow, and we change with the environment. Sometimes we change, some of the things we do, but the techniques never change. They haven't changed since I started in 1982. It's just we have to go with the flow. If we're in a slow market, we might do a little things different than if we're in a fast market, but not much changes.
Okay, Ron, so you've trained thousands and thousands of investor students all over the U.S. and Canada as well. What do you find most rewarding about teaching others? And can you share, do you have a particularly inspiring success story from one of your students that you'd like to share?
Gee whiz, Debbie. God, you're sitting
Nothing like putting you on the spot.
You're sitting here in our building in Jacksonville, Florida, where all of their testimonials are up on the wall all around us. I could just go right down the wall if you got 3 or 4 hours. No, look, I got so many of them, I wouldn't even know where to start. Let me think of an example here real quick. I know of one that I got a big old poster out there on the wall from a guy named Hector Padilla out of California. Told me he just topped $100 million worth of real estate since he came and see me, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago. That's kind of cool. I think of my friend Jay Connor, who lives in North Carolina, who helps teach my 4-day training with me. He came down here to learn how to raise money. But here we are today. This man is netting over $2 million a year, rehabbing only about 30 houses a year. Not counting his other stuff, not counting his terms deals and all that, in a city of 40,000 people, I might add. And he uses the same systems. He does everything that I do. does a great job. In fact, you'll see some of his work if you let me train you for our Quick Start School. And he's a great example of somebody just making a killing in single family houses.
Mhm.
But I got so many of them. There's no way to keep track of them. Sometimes people ask me, do you know how many millionaires you made? And anybody who actually gives an answer to that question is lying. There is no way to know. They don't have to report to me. I'm not their boss,
That's right. But you have been doing it for a very long time, and you've touched a lot of people's lives and changed lives for sure.
And that's kind of what keeps me going. Yeah. About the only thing I do nowadays is teach. I still like doing that. When I don't like it anymore, I'll quit. Go ahead.
Okay. How about, what are some of the key risk management strategies you employ to protect your investments and ensure your long-term success?
Number one, in top of the list, no personal guarantees, period. The end, no exceptions, period. Okay. Number two, when you're beginning, do not write big checks. Do not write big checks unless you feel really good about the deal and you get some help to verify that it is a good deal. And we actually furnish that for you as well. We have mentors that work with our students one-on-one. And always make sure you know your exit strategy before you go in the entrance. Remember, there's only a few of those. I'm either going to lease option or I'm going to sell it for cash or I'm going to move in it. Everything we do applies to people who want to buy their next residence without going down to the bank. I don't care if your credit score is 510. That doesn't stop you from buying your next residence or any other house in Ron's world. Your credit is totally irrelevant. You're never going to use it. Nobody's ever going to pull a credit report on you. And if they do, I'm going to spank you. I got a guy called Guido. He's mean, ugly, tattooed from head to toe. Sending it into your house if I find out you guarantee debt. So make sure I don't hear about it. So anyway, if you use the proper entities, you don't guarantee debt, you don't write big checks, you don't make promises you can't keep, and you get the proper training. And that's the big one right there. That's a mistake a lot of people are making out there right now. Now look, I got a dog in this hunt on this statement because we train, but anybody that tries to get into the real estate business and thinks they're going to learn how to do this business by watching videos on the internet is kidding themselves. And that is a huge mistake. There is no way you can eliminate the cost of your education. You're either going to pay somebody who's been there and done that and wants to teach it, and most don't, or you're going to go get it on your own. I promise you, the cost of my education costs, I don't even know how to measure it, but I promise you it's at least 7 figures because of stupid stuff that I did or did not do. By the way, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. It costs way more. All right. So that's the big one. And, another reason that I guess I'm getting off track here, why people don't make money is because some of them just won't do what they're told to do. And they just, I don't know. They just don't feel they come to us sometimes with low self-esteem because they just can't believe how much money you can make in real estate till they start getting it. That's why our biggest focus is getting them that first check quickly, no matter the size of it, because now you have proof. Now you have proof you can put in front of the dream stealers. Hey, look here, go away, leave me alone. Because it is true, the dream stealers will take your career away from you and your success away from you if you let them. And you cannot listen. If you want to get rich, don't try to get rich by learning from broke people. They're not qualified. They don't know how to do it. They're just repeating stuff that they've heard. Be very careful to whom you listen. And you can write this one down. The whole world is full of crap. There you go. Write that down. It's true.
Okay. Yep. I've got another one for you. In your opinion, what does the future hold for real estate investing, and what should new investors focus on right now to stay competitive?
First of all, as I said, there's always going to be a market for real estate. I don't care where it's at in the country, and I don't care what the economical climate is around us. Always going to be people moving out. Look, when I started in 1982, the prime rate was over 16% of interest, if you can just imagine that, okay? And then, real estate was hard to sell if you had to go get a loan and cash out because the rates were too high, kind of like they are now, worse. And incidentally, if you're listening to me today and you don't think it can get worse, think again. Okay, ask anybody that came through this business up back in the 80s. It can get a lot worse. All right. That was a question now. I forgot.
for just what you feel like the future of real estate is, and it's just that it's never going to go away, right?
It's never going to go away. The future is
That's
what you
right.
make. Okay? And if you
Sure.
listen to all the broke people try to tell you why you shouldn't do this and it's a scam and all of that crap, you're never going to make any money in. You're just going to join them. If that's what you want, nobody can stop you from doing that. That's not who I attract, and that's not who I want to work with. I want to work with people who want to move up and move up quickly and get all the dream stealers out of their face. And unfortunately, by the way, some of them probably got your last name. Sorry. I hope they're not living in your house.
That's true. That is true. All right, Ron, one last question for you. What continues to motivate you after 40 plus years in the industry, and what advice do you give someone just starting?
How can anyone who teaches people how to make money and get rich get tired of what they're doing? I don't know. That's really all I want to do is teach. Everything at Global Publishing is run by you guys. So I'm, like I'm doing right now, like I do at live events and like I do at virtual events. I teach it because I enjoy teaching it. I enjoy people succeeding and never get tired of that. Never get tired of the success letters coming in. And what motivates me basically is that, because the truth is I'm retired, so to speak, and I don't really want to do anything. I delegate everything except the teaching, and I even delegate that sometimes. So that's it. I mess around with classic cars at home in my workshop in the back of my house, kind of give me something to do. I always try to stay busy, though. A lot of people that think they want to retire are going to get slapped in the face after they've retired and figure out how boring it can be if you're not careful. Everybody needs something that makes them happy. Everybody needs something to look forward to. And most people don't realize, well, that was that job you used to have or that business that you used to have. So now what? So, young people are going to ignore what I just said. Old people, I hope it hits you right between the ears. Now what? Maybe you're just looking for a career in real estate to have something to do while making a boatload of money and creating wealth. And by the way, we teach you how to do that tax-free as well. Tax-free, legally, using IRS rules.
Right. Well, you've certainly got the servant's heart, Ron. We can. You have a lot of staff who've been with you for many years, and we can all vouch for that.
Any others?
Yeah. So that is all that I have for questions for you.
You want to tell them the great deal I got for them now? You want me to do that?
Yeah, I would love for you to give our listeners a great offer right now. Great deal.
I'm guessing that many of you are sitting there beginning or trying to begin. Some of you have been trying to begin for several years now. Some of you just got interested in real estate. And we get, we're doing this because we get all these questions. Where do I start? What do I do next? Well, the first thing you need to do is to get some training. Because if you go out here and try to do this business without training, you're going to take some very serious seminars in the School of Hard Knocks. Trust me on that one. In fact, you just don't know what you don't know. And I hate to see you learn it the hard way. So I'm going to give you some things to do here. Number one, if you got questions about what we discussed today, write this down now. Ask at ronlegrand.com, ask@ronlegrand.com. They'll come to me and I'll answer your questions for you. All right. There's no charge for that. Number two, I've got a phone number that you need to write down and call. Put it up there. It's 888-355-3832, 888-355-3832. Okay. Our team is on the other end of that phone. And there's two things you can do when you call. Number one, you can set up a planning session, which is a half an hour after you fill out a form and tell us what you're doing now and what you got to work with and what you want to do. They'll schedule you for a 30-minute planning session. They'll tell you what you have to make this business successful. And, what does success mean to you? There's some questions you're going to have to answer so they can know how to handle that call. That call costs you nothing. You just have to schedule it. All right. And by the way, it's not a sales call. They won't sell you anything unless you ask. Okay. It's purely educational. So you can find out what's it going to take to be successful in this business. And they're all very capable of answering that question. And thirdly, and I hope you take this option because this will be the day you will never forget. I have 3 systems that cover both the ugly house business and the pretty house business. One of them's called wholesaling, another one's called retailing, and another one's called terms. This is all I can think to call them. Tell you pretty clear what's in them. The wholesale system is truly step-by-step for a brand new, uneducated in real estate person to follow, assuming you know nothing, to get your first check. And by the way, I don't touch any deal for less than $20,000, and I expect to get that very, very quickly. I just talked to you about a deal we're closing today that we're probably going to get about $35,000 out of and not do anything to the house. Okay. That's what you want. That's called cash flow. And you can start getting those checks. And I want you to get your first one as fast as you possibly can so you can convince yourself that they're out there. That wholesaling course is everything you need to do to go from step one to the end till you get a check. And by the way, when we wholesale a house, we usually get paid within 2 weeks. Okay. Not 6 months, 2 weeks after we get the buyer. And we get the buyers as fast as we put them on the market, because you're selling a junker to a rehabber. You're selling a rehabber a business opportunity so they can go rehab it and make money. And, when you're ready, maybe you want to be one of those. I would like to see you rehab some houses as well, but I hate to see you do that as your first project because you've got a lot to learn. I'll teach that to you in my retailing course. And it literally is also step by step and got a lot of things in there not to do. And then the one I want you to focus on first, though, is your terms course. Well, I don't know. Focus on wholesale if you want, because it don't take you much to get wholesale deals in loops and get them sold. Focusing on, listening to your terms course will take you through all of these houses that do not need rehab, how we buy them, why we don't go borrow money to buy them because we don't need it. The properties come with a debt, or we create the debt back to the seller. No personal guarantees, I might add. And that's either going to be a lease option or it's going to be a seller carryback note, or we just take over the debt, what they call subject to. You hear a lot about that if you've been watching the web. So we're going to go buy the pretty houses, put lease option tenant buyers in them, and build our wealth, like I just showed you, as simultaneously while we're getting some checks from wholesaling and rehabbing. And you're also going to learn how to systemize this where it takes almost none of your own time. Folks, I buy at least 2 to 4 houses a month, and I promise you, I don't work 2 hours a month at this business. Okay, I got somebody else doing all the work. My whole team includes one person named Adel, who does all the work, and one personal assistant that takes care of all the administrative stuff, but also all the rest of the stuff going on in my life. Neither one of them is not even an employee, and the other one is an employee, but trust me, 10% of her life or less is devoted to real estate. So you don't need a big office. You don't need big overhead. You don't need all that stuff. And these 3 systems will get you to the point where you're out there making offers. And I'm going to give you my land trust course with these 3 systems. It's a whole course on land trust, why you need them, how to form them, which is pathetically easy. And the documents are right in the course to do it with, and why everybody, I don't care who you are, I don't care where you live, should be buying houses in a land trust, never in your personal name. Never buy anything in your personal name. You're going to learn some asset protection and estate planning and some tax reduction stuff along the way as well. So I'm going to give you that course as a gift because you're listening to me today. But that's not, I'm not even done yet. I'm going to give you a 3-day training on nothing but generating quality leads from sellers. 3 days of it, if you can imagine. You're going to have way more than you can do. You just got to pick 2 or 3 things that you equate to and can start getting calls coming in so that Pat Live can answer them and our VAs can call them for you. And then you just make one short closing call. That's all you got to do. And then, of course, when you get agreed on a term, you got to go get a contract on the house. That's also not a big deal. And it's also in all the forms and agreements are in the system. So you don't have to go looking for anything. This whole package, we have sold a ton of them in 1997 without the 2 bonuses, I might add. And you have an opportunity to get it right now for not $1,297, not $997, $897 for this whole package. It's worth at least $5,000 to you. Actually, it's worth more than that, because once you start implementing, you can't put a price on the value of what I'm offering you here today. Look, you don't like it when you get it, you got 30 days to return it, get 100% refund. I don't know how easier it is to make than that. Okay. So take me up on that offer. Again, 888-355-3832. No risk to you. And I'll get you into Planet Ron and you'll understand how this real estate thing really works. And then you can decide if you want to work together with us for going forward and I mean, literally, I got students who keep coming to my events in 25 years is when they started with me. Some of them are very, very wealthy. Some of them are just coming back because they just laid off and they're not doing much and they want somebody to kick them in the butt. I'm perfectly capable of doing that and kind of enjoy that, actually. So you got to start somewhere. Start here. Best deal you're ever going to get with a package like that from probably the oldest guy in the industry. Certainly one of the most experienced, if not the most experienced at what I teach. So that's my offer, Debbie. Is there anything that I missed?
Yes. They can also order at thementorpodcast.com/start. That's /start, START.
Yeah, but guys, you should call because those 2 bonuses are not on that website, if I'm not mistaken. Well, that doesn't mean we wouldn't give them to you even if they weren't. But also the planning session. Don't forget that. Just call. Look, that's a half an hour session with you one-on-one. That's not going to get sold anything on that unless you ask them to tell you more about it. So what do you got to lose? You'll get insights on what you need to do and what it's worth to you and maybe what you think will roadblock you. So anything else?
Right. So just one more time, that number is 888-355-3832. 888-355-3832. Give them a call.
That offer is going to be short-lived, incidentally, because that's the cheapest that we've made to offer that package. So don't hesitate on it. Remember, 30-day unconditional guarantee. So if you're interested in what I just said and you want to learn more about it and want to go step by step, there you go.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, Ron. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for answering all these great questions. And I look forward to seeing you next time I'm in the office.
Okay. Yeah. All right. See y'all.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.